we continue our journey in Bobby Fischer Rediscover with game 3. By the way, I'm trying to obviously show you games that are not published in other books or that I don't know, honestly. And so it's a good experience for me and for you. I hope you will enjoy it. So, game number 3 has the following introduction. Fischer's rise occurred during a chess drought in the United States, and his fourth national championship tournament at the end of 1957 was a major event. Since 1951, there had been only one US championship and one international tournament, Dallas 1957, which was deeply reduced in stature when the Soviet invitee, David Bronstein, couldn't get visa clearance. Now, obviously, they call of Soviet invitee, but in reality, David Bronstein was one, a world champion contender, because in 1951 fought the world championship with Botvinnik. He was from Ukraine, if I remember well, and in reality then he moved to live in Russia. So that's the idea. Strangely, this is speaking Dallas 1957, but Bronstein was in United Kingdom, I think, in 1952. Why do I say that? Because in another book, Bronstein says that when he went there, he discovered that in 1952, in United Kingdom, they still had ration card for the food, which was obviously terrible because it means it was from World War II, and World War II finished 7 years before. So I don't know if it was true, but I don't think Bronstein had any reason to lie, because after all he always wanted to be a nice guy. This game number 3 of the book, is Sidney Bernstein against Fischer, US Championship, New York, 1957-1958. It is a Sicilian defense, Najdorf variation, but probably in 1957 maybe it wasn't called Najdorf variation. I don't know. E4, C5, so Fischer is black. And this is why I like to watch Fischer game, because I would like to have an opening repertoire similar to his. I would like to play E4 as white and C5 as black against E4, obviously. Knight F3, D6, D4, C takes D4, Knight takes D4, Knight F6, Knight C3, A6, Bishop G5, E6, F4, Bishop E7, Queen F3, Knight B, D7. A short time later, and this is why it's interesting to read Solti's comments in this case, because he was a grandmaster of that period, right, up to 1970. So he must have seen the evolution of the opening theory. And here he says that a short time later it was discovered that Queen C7, castle, and Knight B D7 is the right move order. Wow, that's kind of interesting. So let's see, because what is the problem here? I don't understand. He says that if you play instead Knight B D7 like he did now, there is Bishop C4 and he threatened this. Oh wow, very interesting. Yeah, let's say, I don't know, let's say play this. Boom. And what do you do? If you take it takes back, you have to move this somewhere, right? Maybe here. So you attack here, and what do you do as white? Maybe let's say it takes here. I don't know. Interesting, however. I think it's an interesting situation, right? So we have 6 against 7. But I don't know if you like it, this thing. But probably queen c7 prevents bishop c4 and that kind of thing. Again, I am a club player level, not a grandmaster. It's possible that a grandmaster maybe is able to convert this position into a win. Maybe I am not, so I don't know why they consider it very important. But this is very interesting. And the thing is, one could, however, try to see what the computer play as white, to see if that move order is really important also today. Okay, because this book was published in 2003. I don't have a latest edition. Maybe the latest edition has been checked with a computer and maybe some things are finished, but the one from 2003 might have some lack in computer analysis. Okay, so we were in this position, and the comment said this was the right move order to prevent bishop c4. Instead, Fischer played knight d7. Again, in that time they didn't have computers, they had obviously to discover the moves by themselves. Not only that, they had also limited circulation of information material like chess bulletins, magazines, etc. Because 1957 also the famous informator didn't exist. So the game continued with castle. Let's remember that Sidney Bernstein is playing white and Fischer is playing black. Queen c7, g4, b5, and here it says that bishop g2 disappeared after this game. Maybe it's too slow, I don't know. So let's see what happens. Bishop b7, and here it says there was no time for b4 because of e5, and if you play d takes e5, there is queen takes e8, b takes e3, f takes e5, knight takes e5, and knight c6 with advantage to white. Well, a very interesting position, very complicated, huh? Yeah. And this is like 5 moves, and it could be kind of complicated to calculate. I would like to see one thing when we go back to the position. Okay guys, sorry if we are returning back a little, but that comment made by Soltis about the move order, that knight bd7 wasn't the move order was queen c7 to avoid bishop c4. Obviously, I started to think about it while I was watching the game, because it didn't convince me. Okay, so he plays bishop c4, but I am not going to castle right away. I was thinking, what if I play this, right? Again, I'm not using a computer, so I might be totally wrong, but you guys can use a computer at home, right? So, and or you can tell me, if you know the Sicilian Najdorf, what is the theory, okay? Because after this move, for example, bishop takes f6, right? He castle, I thought, also black castle, and then he plays, boom, bishop takes e6, f takes e6, knight takes e6, and watch here, boom, knight e5. I don't know if this is the right move, but once more, look at this, because it could be maybe interesting. I don't know. Maybe interesting. Because, I don't know, if he plays this, you can take, yes, he can take here. So, I don't know. I think clearly that comment is interesting, but it needs to be deepened, because I don't know the theory of the Najdorf, and I don't know if there are some refutations. And this is the problem. Often, you know, I notice in chess books that they don't have an editor, someone who actually read the book before publishing and ask the writer, the author, hey, but why? Is this correct? Is this not correct? I don't know. I don't know. But it's an interesting situation, right? And so I hope you will tell me more about it in the comment section. Thank you. And now let's return to the real game. Okay, so we were at this point. We have seen that black couldn't play b4, and he played bishop b7, after which rook h e1, and now he played b4. Here there is a note that says, a later Korchnoi game showed that knight b6, safeguarding against sacrifices on d5, grants white a reasonable attack. Okay, so we don't care to play that move. We just want to play b4, okay? And because in fact, yes, there are a lot of sacrifices in the Sicilian on the square d5, but some are correct, some are not. In this case, it seems this is not correct. Okay, it seems that it was better to play knight b1, and that Fischer said he faced a similar sacrifice 2 rounds before against Bernstein, good friend Herbert Siedman, and drew. Now, I want to tell you one thing, why I don't want to use the engine, because I think the engine, when we use the engine, we don't think. We don't even know how to evaluate the position. We take everything granted from the engine, because the engine is a kind of chess god compared to us, but also compared to the best GM in the world, right? Since nobody can really beat a Stockfish 17. Why? Because normally in a couple of seconds is 25 moves ahead, so how can you actually beat that? But the point is, I play against human, so I want to see what a human would do, what a human would think. Here, how do you think black continue? Obviously, black continue with e takes d5. Okay, And here there is a line that shows knight takes d5, not so good, okay? So you have to play this move. E takes d5. And now obviously there is a knight f5 as a threat, okay? And here, what would you play if you were black? This is kind of very important situation. Soltis put a diagram to let us know that you actually need to think. Black played king f8. And obviously it seems that he's preparing to play rook e8 and bishop d8, okay? King d8 obviously seems not good because of knight f5, but let's see how it goes now, because I don't want to boggle us with too many variations. Knight f5, rook e8, queen e3. Okay, here it's obviously trying to threaten a checkmate, because bishop takes f6. If you take with a bishop, queen takes e8, checkmate, right? So what is black doing? He played bishop d8, and white continued with queen d4. How do you continue as black? So this is a very interesting move. Once more it shows us that Fischer was able to decide which pieces were important to be exchanged. So if we don't learn anything else, we learn this from Fischer games. He played bishop c8 because this knight is the heart of the attack against black, so he needs to remove it some way, okay? Bishop h4, knight c5. As you can see, Fischer opens for that. Here there are a lot of lines that Soltis put, and I hope you will buy the book and check, okay? At this point, white takes here because he's attacking, right? King takes g7. So this moment, before taking on g7 was the critical moment of the game, okay? So more critical than this you couldn't find. g5, bishop f5, g takes f6, and can you imagine what Fischer played here? Because obviously it's another peculiar move that one would be afraid to play, but it's what the position needs. King h6. Now queen c4, knight d7, queen takes e7, bishop takes e7, bishop f3, and once more bishop d8. It seems that at this point white had time pressure, so they really fought a lot. This was a long time control game, but from this point onward there are no comments about the game, there is just the moves of the game, okay? So let's see what happened in this game. Bishop g5, king g6, rook g1, bishop takes f6, bishop h4, check, king h6, bishop takes f6, knight takes f6, rook g5, bishop e4, rook f1, bishop g6, rook f g1, rook e3, bishop d1, knight e4, attack this, rook 5 g2, and f5. Boom. This is interesting. Yes, it blocks this, but it blocks this pawn and create this powerful outpost for black. Bishop e2, a5. Obviously now that white has a light square bishop, you put your pawns on the dark square, so this becomes kind of useless. h4, rook h3, h5, bishop takes h5, bishop d3, bishop g6, rook f1, rook f8, king d1, knight f6, rook e1, knight takes d5, rook f2, rook e3, rook g1, rook e7, king d2, king g7. And here it seems that white sealed this move, rook f3. What seal means? In that time adjournment existed, so the game was adjourned. It would have been played probably in the morning before the next round, and so the opponents had the time to analyze the game by themselves. This practice of adjournment became obsolete once the computers came into play, because a computer could analyze for you, find the best moves, and so what would you play, right? But to tell you the truth, this was also the reason why in that time players became really good, because they had to analyze their endgames, and so you didn't have to tell them you have to study the endgame to become good, because they were studying the endgame at every game they played, and that was it practically. Here, however, we see, if we can, the idea is that he has 5 pawns against 4. This is a pass pawn. Once it's able to push it, it will become a queen, or white has to sacrifice. And then we see that unfortunately this being on the dark square occupies one rook to try to defend it, otherwise it falls. If it falls, obviously the problem is black has 2 pass pawns, so it's a big mess. Yeah. And here, however, in this position, white resigned. I hope you enjoyed the game. Again, there is a thick amount of analysis between move 17 and move 18, 19. It's huge, the amount of analysis to do in that moment. So that was the critical part of the game.